Hello, today is April 18 of 2022. My name is Celeste Maldonado. I'm interviewing Priscilla Gallegos for the University Library Special Collections Archives at University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, hereafter abbreviated as UTRGV. This project is in a partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Mrs. Gallegos, that this interview will be placed in the University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV and shared with the Voices Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there's anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there's something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. The University Library Special Collections and Archives will archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documents you are willing to share. UTRGV University Library will retain copyright or non-exclusive right to the interview and any other materials you donate to Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting to make sure you agree with our interview procedures before we continue. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say, yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each question.
Okay. Awesome.
Do you give University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV consent to archive your interview or material at the University Library, UTRGV University Library?
I agree.
Do you grant UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives right, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
I agree.
Do you agree to allow UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
I agree.
Do you grant the University Library Special Collections and Archives consent to share your Zoom interview with the Voices Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusive in the Voices of a Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will be included posting the interview on the internet?
I agree.
As you recall, we previously filled out a pre-interview form. We used this information for the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voices server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before the Voices sends its UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives, we will have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members, so that will not be part of our public file, your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at UTRGV University Library. The final 2 questions ask you for your consent on what I just described. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives?
I agree.
Okay. On occasions, UTRGV Special Collections and Archives and Voices receive requests for journalists who wishes to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone number or your email with journalists?
I agree.
Thank you for your consent. Your experience and stories mean a lot to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives. I'll look forward to what you say in the interview questions and we will now ask.
Okay. Your room looks so nice.
Thank you. We're gonna have to cut that out. Okay. Okay. Mrs. Gallegos, thank you for your time. Like I said earlier, your stories and experience are valuable to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives, and to our partners at the Voices Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley. Because you are a project coordinator at Foremost Paving Inc. at McAllen. And because you are a wife, mother of an adult child, and a recent grandmother, I know you have many meaningful stories and experience to share on how COVID-19 has impacted your roles and carried out in your life. So before we talk about COVID-19 stories, can you please share with us a bit about yourself, who you are and how you wish to be known? Who is Priscilla Gallegos?
Well, I'm a married mom. Like you said, I do have a teenage daughter. She is 22, and I am a grandmother of a 2.5-year-old. So yeah, and a hardworking mom at that. I work a normal 8 to 5 job. So does my husband. He works in construction, and my daughter is taking a break from school and staying home and being a full-time mom.
Thank you very much. The first section of the questions asked you to please share your stories and memories from when the COVID-19 pandemic made its first impact in December 2019 and about the summer of 2020. So the first question I asked you is, can you share some memorable stories about how you first heard or learned about COVID-19?
I remember watching the news, and it was a small number of people that were affected, and it was the world news, and they were talking about it. Of course, when you first hear something like that, I thought it wasn't serious, nothing for us to be concerned about, until it was a constant on the news. It was on the local news, it was on the world news, it was everywhere. It blew up. Um, that's when I think I started really getting nervous about it. But it was at the very beginning, it didn't seem to be serious because there was the bird flu and other diseases and stuff that people would get from traveling. So I didn't think to be concerned until it started to spread like crazy.
Okay. Uh, what were some early reports or rumors about COVID-19 that you remember back in 2020?
What I remember is that I was working for the city of Corpus Christi, and the city manager had started sending emails about sanitation and that we should be taking this more seriously. The health department had got involved and was teaming up with the city, and he was doing daily um, meetings, live meetings, and they were actually showing them on the news of different reports and bringing in scientists and instructing us all to start working from home. That's when I think it really started to hit me that it was extremely serious and we needed to take it seriously, basically.
Okay, I believe you just answered my third question.
I think I did. I'm just realizing that now.
It's
Yeah.
okay. Do you remember what was like for you during the stay-at-home orders in 2019? And do you have any stories from this time you could tell?
And working from home was crazy. I was bored out of my mind. Um, I enjoyed working from home because I got to not have to dress up for work. Um, I think that's when I started to realize working in comfortable clothes was very important. I stopped wearing so much makeup and things started to change. Um, I was exercising more because I was working from home. So I would take breaks periodically and I would take my dog for walks, and I enjoyed that time. But the stay at home orders, I wouldn't leave my house. I mean, it was everything was delivered. Um, Everything was hard to find. So it was basically my little neighborhood that I would confine myself to. If I didn't have to go wash clothes, I wouldn't leave the house. Everything else was ordered in, and there was a tremendous amount of people sick. I mean, there was like 7,000 in Corpus, and it jumped up from one month to the next. It was just ridiculous numbers. All the stores were closed. So that's when I think in Corpus, I think it hit harder because there was a lot of visitors from out of state and out of cities because they were closing down the beaches. And Corpus Christi was still running the ads inviting people to come and stay. And when they would get there, they would, tourists would call the city and they were upset because everything was closed because there wasn't enough people to actually run any of the stores because they were all infected by other visitors that had come. So it got serious real quick in Corpus. I think we got hit faster than the Valley did. And that's when I was getting very nervous because I didn't want to leave. It's when I came to the Valley um, after 4th of July that year that I got sick with COVID.
Over the last couple of years, what news media, social media, and other sources do you rely on to keep you informative about COVID-19? And why do you prefer these news sources?
I don't have a preference of what news outlet. I kind of rely on our local channel 5. And well, in Corpus it was channel, I think it was a Fox channel or something like that. It was their local news. Um, I do listen to the world news because they have bigger numbers and broader numbers and more information, but it's so sad and depressing, because you would hear the stories of all these families affected and some children parentless because their families were dying left and right. And then, of course, it was hitting close to home as well to us. Um, but I really do have respect for COVID. After being, well, I've had COVID twice. Um, After getting sick that first time, I really got scared. I really got scared. Um, I guess just the fact of not being able to breathe, take a deep breath, kind of got me nervous because they were talking about these, all these families that were being affected and the different symptoms that people were having, and then some of the people were having after symptoms. It was just so overwhelming and scary because you want to spend time with your family, and yet, we still had to stay away from our family. um Talk about being introvert. But yeah, I think that was very difficult for a lot of people. And we'd get calls from the city, people arguing that they wanted to go outside, and we were just asking them to, it was their wishes, but to please refrain from being around anybody that they had not been around, um, or living with, because of the spread of it spreading. I mean, you want to stay away. You don't know if you have it or not, if you're asymptomatic or not, or you don't know. There's not tests to know if you're asymptomatic or you're not, or you're a regular carrier, or whatever the case is.
Can you share with me what you understand about COVID-19 as an infectious disease and how you feel it impacted society? Likewise, can you share with me what you don't understand about COVID and wish to know more about it?
I think it has really impacted our society a lot. I think a lot of people don't like going out anymore. These past 2 years have taken away that ability to talk to people. Wearing the masks, you don't get to see their facial reactions, and now people are taking off their masks, but they forgot that they don't have it, so you get to see their facial reactions. um it's impacted that, friendliness. You bump into somebody at the store and you say hello, that people stay to themselves now. And it's sad. besides the fact economy wise cost, all the, number now the gas prices are up because of something else, but the food costs, the shortages of food. So people were jacking up the prices of food because there was such a shortage, and the water, and then the the hand sanitizer epidemic, the toilet paper. People were stealing toilet paper from corner stores because they didn't have any at home. I think it impacted our society a lot. They made us hoarders and introverts, I think. It's in big time germaphobes. Um, I thought I was already cautious. I think now I'm more cautious about germs, and I get nervous. I won't shake anybody's hand anymore. That has gone away. It's like a fist bump or like an elbow tap, or not even just what's up, from a distance, because you don't even want to get close to anybody. So I think it's impacted our society besides financially, in every way, being personable with people, customer service. Some of these restaurants, I think it's really impacted these people. I think they're ruder and more to the point. Like, is there anything else you want? Anything else? Anything else? Instead of, having that personal conversation, I see that has changed. Um, I don't like going out anymore. I used to. I don't like it anymore. I'm more of a homebody. Um, Things I don't understand is, I wish there was better ways. I know they have the home test now. A lot of stores are sold out, but I wish there was better ways of people getting tested that were, I guess, faster. A lot of the clinics that they had that were popping up everywhere, they're all closed. So you have to go to your doctor now, if you want to test. Or I know you have to make an appointment with CVS. You can't just walk in, even though they don't have anybody there. You know, you have to make an appointment to schedule a test. Um, I wish it was more available. A lot of rural areas, some of these people or elderly people, they don't know how to make appointments online. Why do they have to make an appointment online? Why can't they just walk into a pharmacy and just get a test? So you have the rural people in the rural areas that don't really watch or don't have TV, I just wish there was more available, everywhere, and it was free and I know some places do charge, or they'll charge your insurance, but there's a lot of people that don't have insurance or can't afford insurance. Those are the only things that I wish. Not understanding about the disease itself. I got it twice. Why me? you know I had different symptoms both times. They didn't really tell us if we had different strands or not. I really wish that was available. I know it's a more expensive test, but I wish that information was available, besides the normal, constantly wash your hands, avoiding people. And I wish people would take it serious. There's a lot of people that never, I don't think that they took it serious, or they didn't believe it. They thought it was fake. And I had it twice. It's not fake. I was really sick both times, so definitely not fake.
Okay, thank you. Do you feel your family has the same beliefs as you about COVID-19, or there's some members who take it more seriously or lightly, and how so?
My family does take it serious. We lost 4 family members, and they were elderly, but I think that hit our family hard, and we postponed holidays for 2 years, because of it. So, at least with my family, I know we do take it seriously, and we're constantly asking each other, have you been tested recently? Are you vaccinated? Do you have your boosters? So I think pretty much all my family members, and I want to speak like maybe 80% of my family, at least my immediate family, probably higher in the 90 percentile, are all vaccinated, and they've had their boosters, and they've either lost an immediate family member or know somebody very close to them that has lost somebody. So I think we all take it pretty serious, and only because we have older parents. I mean, my mother is 70. So, and she's had it twice. And so we definitely, I think we all take it pretty serious.
This next part asks you to share any stories about COVID-19 vaccines and any vaccination related stories you may wish to tell. Did you get vaccinated and follow up your booster shot?
I did get vaccinated the first and second time. I did not get my booster because I got COVID again. So I didn't get my booster. I was supposed to get it and I have not done it. And I'm going to have to get it because I have my surgery in June. So I need to schedule that very soon. It's a time constraint for me. Just getting out of work is the only thing for me, but I do need to schedule it.
What was it like? Was it easy or difficult for you in terms of scheduling and waiting time? And can you share more memories from the place where you were vaccinated or boosted? And did you have any side effects?
Yes. The first time I got vaccinated, I think I waited 3 hours in line at the school, and it was crazy. They weren't very organized at the very, very beginning. The second time I got vaccinated, I went to the CVS pharmacy, and it was much smoother. And I got vaccinated. The first and second time, I had symptoms. I was sick. I had, I think, fever for a couple of days. I think that was basically it, the chills and stuff like that once I got the vaccines. But after 2, 3 days, I didn't feel crappy anymore. I felt a little bit better. But I'm nervous about getting the booster because I don't know what symptoms I'm going to get since it's been a long time since I've gotten the other vaccine. I don't know if I'm going to really be sick. That's what I think is prohibiting me from getting that booster. Is the fear of what side effects I will have this time. But yeah, I was in bed for a couple of days, just laying low because I did not feel very good at all. And I'm nervous about taking the third one, the booster.
This next set of questions, Ms. Gallegos, are going to ask you about how COVID-19 has impacted your life in ways of your career, family. Okay, we're gonna have to cut that off. I'm gonna start right now, again. These next set of questions, Ms. Gallegos, are going to ask you about how COVID-19 has impacted your life in ways of your career, your family, and your personal relationship. As in your personal relationship, you mentioned that you were stationed with your partner at Corpus Christi before the first wave of the pandemic. How would you describe your relationship with this partner before COVID-19?
When COVID hit the first time, I was living in Corpus Christi and we were living together, and his company was getting very strict on who he was around. So since he was on a machine, he wasn't they were not eating lunch in the break room anymore because they were limiting exposure to other employees because they were dropping like flies. I mean, he works for a one of the largest construction companies in the world, actually, and they had over 1,000 guys on their job site, over 1,000, and it was like 5 different companies with their own crews. So he was eating in his machine, staying away from everybody. So when he'd come home, I was already working from home. It you know we wouldn't go anywhere. And then when it started getting really bad in Corpus, I started getting nervous because he has rheumatoid arthritis. So his immune system is extremely low. So that's when we had come up with, you know what, maybe I should be away from you so you're not exposed to me, and let me head down to the valley because his company was going to be finishing up that job anyway. So I left, and it was very difficult for me to leave him because I was constantly worried about his well-being. He still to date hasn't gotten sick. He is on several medications that they were recommending people to take during COVID. So, but he had already been on those medications for several years. So I think that helped him. But the strain on our relationship, I don't want to say it was a big strain, but it was definitely a strain. Um, it was something that we had to get used to. And then when I was sick, the first time, he got really scared because I should have been hospitalized that first time. I really think I should have, but my doctor was the only one that wanted to see me. She didn't, a lot of doctors were not seeing patients that were sick. They were just sending you to the hospital. She actually saw me, and I was with a can of Lysol, and masked and gloved, and I kept telling all her staff that I was sick and positive, but she still saw me and gave me a series of shots, tons of medication, and I started to get better. Uh, so he stayed, and I would remember sitting, I was working from home. So I was already working here in the Valley. I would sit at the window, and he was in my back porch, like more than 6 feet away, talking through a window. And it was so sad because, you want comfort from your partner. You want that closeness, and then you can't have it. And it was so sad. And then my mother was leaving my food. I was confined to my bedroom. I would not leave. So she would put my food on a tray outside my door. And every time I'd pick it up, she would Lysol and sanitize the whole area. And then when I'd put it back, she'd Lysol and sanitize the area. And then it was ugly. And then she would sit outside the door crying because she knew I was very sick and coughing and unable to breathe. And, it was just it was so traumatic. And when she would take me to the doctor, she literally put like a shower curtain to divide the back, like as I was sitting in the back seat and then to the front seat. And then she would line it with plastic because she didn't want me to actually touch her seats or anything. And then it sanitized. It was nuts. I mean, it was just absolutely nuts. And we did this twice. So, and then she got sick both times as well. So once we were both positive, then we still were keeping our distance and still sanitizing from each other. But it was just crazy. I mean, my husband was crying, him not being able to see me. And then, my mother was devastated. My daughter, it was very difficult. It's something I definitely don't want to live again. And I did it twice. I can't believe it. But it was it was hard to be apart from the people that you depend on, or that are that person, that your person. It's hard. It was very difficult for all of us, I think. But I think it made us stronger in the end. We depend on each other now, a little bit more. I think it made our relationship stronger in the long run, of course, because there we had broken up for a time, because I was sick and I didn't want him to get sick from me. And the distance of our relationship, he was in Corpus, I was here, it strained on us, and it was hard. And then after I got better, I always tease him. I think he asked me to marry him because he thought I was going to die. It's a constant running joke, but it wasn't that. I mean, we had been together for years, and we lived together in Corpus for 2 years. So it definitely wasn't that. But I always tease him that's why he asked me to marry him, because we had broken up and he thought I was going to die from COVID. But no, it wasn't that. It was just that, it made us stronger in the end. It really did.
I believe you answered my next question as well.
Did I? Okay. I didn't even know.
I witnessed you relocating during the pandemic in 2020. What were the struggles you experienced shifting into a long distance relationship during the pandemic, and how did you deal with those struggles?
It was tough. I mean, you go living from on your own to living with your mom. Oof, it was definitely tough. Um, but I think her and I, we definitely, with the pandemic, we were very careful. We had stuff to sanitize all over the house, and we kind of came up with a schedule and a mutual agreement of, where we're going to go, where we're not going to go. We were ordering our food already by that time, so her and I kind of sunk into a schedule, um, because of the pandemic and living at home. It was difficult living with my mom again. Definitely, I missed my I missed the freedom before all this started, and I just missed my home. I missed my home with my husband, definitely. But it was a struggle getting used to living with your parent again.
You also answer my next question. Um, you just recently got married, how you said, congrats. Can you share with us if you postponed your wedding for to wait for a safer time during the pandemic?
Well, yes, we wanted to have an actual wedding, but since everything was going on, we decided to go to the justice of the peace, and the judge was extremely strict. He only allowed, we didn't even have any witnesses. It was just me and him and the judge. And he had a huge privacy screen, and we were on the opposite side of it. And then he didn't even want us too close to each other. And we were masked and everything. So we're going to postpone our reception, hopefully to this fall, like late fall. That's what we ended up doing, so we could get a small number of our family together. And we're just going to play it by ear. Hopefully, nothing spikes up or a new strand or anything like that happens, and we can actually keep that date. My brother postponed his wedding for a year, because of that. And then they were threatening him that he was going to lose all the money that he had put into the salon and the church. The priests couldn't honor any more extensions. So they had to do it. When their attendance, they had to cut like over 100 people off their guest list. They had to limit it to a certain amount of people, um, because of that. And it was very sad. I didn't go to my brother's reception because I wanted some of my other aunts to go. Like I gave up my spot, which I was happy to do, because I wanted, the older people that were never going to see my brother and his wife. I wanted them to go and enjoy themselves. So me and my daughter did not go because of that, because we gave up our seat to somebody else to actually go to the reception and see them. And everybody was wearing their mask, and I don't think, from what I understand, nobody got sick from his reception. That's what I was told. I don't know if that changed, but they were pretty careful. Everybody had their masks on. I think it was a DJ instead of a band. Like they limited everything, and everything was like prepackaged. So we were kind of taking that same suit and said, okay, well, we'll wait, everybody, and we're going to make sure that everybody is vaccinated. I don't want anybody getting sick or because they're coming to a family gathering.
Thank you. Did COVID-19 impact any elements of your wedding, like location, service, and reception? If yes, and how so?
It did. We wanted to have a big wedding with all of our families and friends, and because of this, we scaled it back, which it's my second wedding, his second wedding. So we thought like we really don't need anything big anyway. I think the pandemic helped us out with that. But we're gonna have a reception, at a restaurant instead of, and because it's going to be a smaller amount of people. We wanted to do something big and elaborate, but we're not going to do that anymore.
Okay, thank you. Before the pandemic, what were some of the normal activities or routines you and your family experienced?
Oh gosh, I'd actually go to concerts. I don't go to concerts anymore. um, Normal activities, just going to the grocery store. I will not go to any big chain store. I won't go to any store without wearing a mask. I don't care if they have a mask mandate or not. I still will not do that to today. I just won't. Um, we don't go to restaurants. If they don't have a drive-through, I won't go. I prefer picking up and bringing home or ordering. Which favor loves that, right? The ordering constantly coming to your house. Um, it has impacted us a lot. I would like to start going out to eat, but I still get very nervous. So if going out to eat maybe twice a month, I say that's too much. I pretty much pick up and come home, or we just cook. We cook here at the house. And I am going into the stores now to buy groceries. I finally stopped ordering pickup um, and delivery. I just recently stopped, but I was doing that still. It's already been over 2 years for me doing pickup or delivery services. So I finally started to go in the store. I spend more money now. See, when I was doing the delivery, you spend less money because you get to pick the items and you don't get to, oh, I need that. You don't, yeah. So it's interesting how that has changed our life.
How did COVID-19 alter your family routines and activities? And please share like any relative examples or stories.
We don't gather as a family anymore, like Christmas and Easter. We usually do a big bash. Everybody goes. I didn't go this year again. My daughter was still not comfortable taking my grandson, so we did something very small and intimate. So it has changed us gathering as a family a lot, and it's sad because you lose touch. Those relationships, if you don't nurture them, you lose that connection with those people, and they're your family. And it's just, it has really affected us as a family. I can see my daughter has gotten, her anxiety and depression has gotten worse. Was, she is very fearful of being in large crowds now. That never used to be a thing for her. Now it is. If there's 15, 20 people in a room, she can't, just won't do it. It has to be a small number of people. Her anxiety, you start to see her fidget and she wants to get out. So I think it has changed a lot because I accommodate her as much as I possibly can because she's my daughter and I want to show her support. So her anxiety and depression has gotten much worse. She was already an introvert or a hermit, like we would, nickname for that. Um, Now it's 10 times worse, definitely. Trying to get her back to civilization, pull her back to try to get her to go out. I haven't had any success. So she's going to start seeing a therapist again to help her introduce her back into society and back into work. She prefers very small, intimate stuff. So she'll wait in the car. If I go to Walmart, she'll wait in the car. She won't get down. And she'll FaceTime me. That's what she does. She'll FaceTime me at Walmart or at HEB, and I'll ask her, what is it that you want? And that's how we've been doing it for a while. And I know it's an inconvenience because people, give me the looks, but I don't care. I'm sorry, my daughter has anxiety and depression. I'm trying to coax her slowly into getting back into being around people again. So yeah, it's changed us big time.
Did the pandemic impact the way your family celebrates holidays like Christmas, New Year's, or Thanksgiving, and how so? And have you guys returned into normal celebrations now in 2022?
We haven't returned to normal stuff yet. I'm hoping that next year we'll be able to start. I think this year, since my mom is 70, she kind of still wants to distance herself and not gather so much. She still hasn't returned to church. She's been doing her online church. And it's interesting because it's such a large number of people, but they do different series of Zoom classes and they get to see their faces, you know. And she does her Bible study online also, and it's Zoom type. Um, so I don't think so. I think we're going to stay like this for a little while longer. She's also started going into stores and stuff, but as far as like celebrating together with inviting friends, probably not. I think it'll be just immediate family. But I'm hoping that this year, towards the end of this year, these holidays, that we get to gather for Christmas and New Year's. Well, we really don't do anything for New Year's, but at least Christmas and Thanksgiving, because it's just basically us. And these are the people that I talk to almost every day. So conversations are we get kind of bored because we already know what's going on with each other because we talk to each other so much. At least with my family, you know, you have different conversations or what's been going on or how's work. It, yeah, it's kind of, it's very mundane, I guess. Like we already know what's going on with each other because we talk to each other every day. So I'm hoping this year that we'll be able to have more people for Thanksgiving and Christmas, God willing, because I was sick again during the holidays. So that's another thing. My mom and I were both sick with COVID during Christmas holidays this past year. So I'm hoping this year I don't get it a third time. I don't know. Third time's a charm. Hopefully not.
Uh, you share with me that your grandson is a pandemic baby,
Yes.
and in sense of he was born during the pandemic. What were some of the extra safety precautions that the hospital made you and other visitors follow?
And it was crazy in the hospital. Those people are no joke. I had to take a test before I entered, and they allowed only me or one person in the delivery room with her. And once the doctor was fully sanitized and clothed, which took her a longer process, she literally waited to the last minute. And the nurses, they don't, they would check her monitors from outside the room, and there was a camera. So they would communicate with me, you know, if she was needing anything or, you know, like speaker. It was just, it was so weird. I had never, so impersonable, I guess. Um, she was having complications too, right? She was in labor for 24 hours. So the nurse gave me like a weird shaped yoga ball. And I was basically helping her to dilate, like rocking her and helping her to dilate and getting her to that point where she was fully dilated to give birth. But the hospital was no joke, man. Anytime I would leave the hospital, they wanted me to get checked again. It was bad. So I just didn't leave until I left. She delivered, and then I stayed with her as long as I possibly could. And then I left, and I didn't go back until I picked her up because they didn't let me back in. It was, and she was so upset because she wanted me there just to have, you know, you want your mom. Something hurts, you want your mom. But her baby daddy was there with her, but it was either him or me. And my mother was upset because she wanted to be there too. And it was just, they were only allowing one person at a time. So yeah, that was really hard for all of us. And we had to get special shots. I remember they wanted us to get all these different vaccines because they didn't want us in the hospital um, in a certain area. Like we had to go through a certain walkway. It was just so, I don't know if it's still like that now or if they've changed anything. Well, my brother just recently had a baby. So he said he had to wait in the car. Like he couldn't even be in there, and he had to get vaccine. He had to get tested every time he left the hospital. Like if he went to the car, it was out more than a certain amount of time, he had to get retested to go back in. And his baby ended up having to stay in the hospital, and his wife was released. So that was really difficult. And watching him I mean, he would cry because they had to leave the baby and it was very difficult. And they both had to get tested in different vaccines as well, um, before they could go in. And it was crazy, just crazy.
How did you and your family adapt to a newborn while different COVID variants like Delta, Omicron were causing spikes in sickness and hospitalizations? What precautions did your daughter and you took for the safety of the baby?
Well, my poor COVID baby, he hasn't really gone anywhere. I think he's been to HB once in his life, maybe twice. Walmart, maybe twice, and he's already going to be 3. We don't take him anywhere. We anytime we get home from a shopping trip, now that we're going to stores, we change clothes and make sure we wash and sanitize before we even get near him. Um, I have a picture of him, the first reaction when he was in Walmart. He was so bright-eyed. He was like, wow. Anything he touched, I didn't let him touch anything unless I was going to buy it, or I would sanitize it first before giving it to him to touch. Um, yeah, it's, and I changed him the time that he actually went, whatever clothes he was wearing in the store. By the time I got to the car, I opened the trunk and I changed him, and I got him out of that clothes before I sat him in his car seat because I didn't want him his dirty clothes to touch. So yeah, I think we tried, and then he wasn't able to wear a mask because he was too little. He didn't understand. Now he understands. So now he wears a mask and he's 2.5, but we really haven't taken him anywhere. Parks, we haven't done any of that. I started buying jungle gym type stuff for him here at the house because he needs some sort of activity outdoors. Um, my mom and all her plants. So he's been doing gardening here, stuff that kids normally do, like at parks and running around, socialization. He's going to be one of those difficult kids because he doesn't know how to do any of that, because everybody, we all been keeping the babies apart. I mean, my cousin has her little girl is going to be what, I think she's 3. I think she's a half a year older than my grandson Joseph. So we've been keeping them apart instead of doing play dates. So they don't know how to interact with other kids. She goes to daycare, but I won't. I don't think I'm not gonna put him in anything like that yet. My daughter is way too paranoid um, about putting him with other kids because they're constantly getting sick. I mean, it's just normal. Kids are constantly touching stuff, and they touch their mouth, they touch their face. That they don't understand that they're not supposed to do that. But he's really good at washing hands. As soon as I turn on the faucet, I pull it out. I pull out the soap and I tell him, okay, we're gonna wash your hands. And he holds out his hands and he lathers them up, and I do the motions with him. So he's very good at that. And then the sanitizer, he understands. I said, okay, we're gonna sanitize. So he holds out his hand. I What 2.5-year-old does that? I mean, only COVID babies, I would assume, because normal kids, they weren't raised that way. And he's been, poor baby, he's been, unfortunately, that's his norm.
Thank you very much. Who from your family members, including yourself, believe got affected the most during the pandemic?
I think the kids, I think all the kids, I think as adults, we understand that we have to stay away to keep safe, but the kids don't understand that. um my cousin, her little girl, and my grandson, like I said, they're almost the same age. They're 6 months apart, and they don't understand that they can't play together. We do the FaceTime and they can see each other, but they don't understand a lot of the socializing things together. So I think we've had 2 play dates together in his almost 3 years of life, and he was so excited. He was hugging her, but I would we'd wipe their hands down. We're trying to keep they don't understand that it's important, or or being safe is important. And you want them to build their immunity too, but we don't want them to get sick. So yeah, I think the most affected in my family would be the kids, the younger generation.
Mrs. Gallegos, let's now talk about how the pandemic affected the work you do as a project coordinator at Foremost Paving Inc. For background, can you please share what kind of work you do?
I currently work for a heavy civil company. We do right now we're currently working on the bridge, or yeah, the bridge or the barrier at the border. That's one of the projects that we're doing, but we do pipe work, bridge, and road construction. I'm the paper pusher.
How how was a typical day at your job before the COVID-19?
It's a typical day. I mean, I would get paperwork from the guys, you know, and they're in and out from the field. I think the way we've changing procedures now, it goes to one place, and we're supposed to be sanitizing these documents, or these paper documents, because of the fear that these men have been around other men, and the possibility of getting sick.
How has COVID affected how has COVID affected your work? For example, was like in the spring of summer of 2020 throughout the early ways.
It's I think it's been a major hiring problem for us. We've had a lot of men, besides the fact of, you know, people coming and going, but a lot of people, when they got sick from COVID, they just never returned. I think the fear of getting sick and taking it home to their family, we've had a major problem keeping people employed. Like, we've had a high turnover rates, which costs our company money, because we have to train them again and put money into the orientation and whatever safety classes that they need, and then for them to be leaving. So I think it's caused a major strain. And a lot of the stuff now, instead of being in person, it's online, which I think it's good now. Less for us, sort of less paperwork. I think it's kind of the same, but like, you don't have to interact with so many people, and that's how they've limited. Our main office has cameras now. They won't even let you in the building. You have to stop, state your business, and then whether it's deemed important or not, they'll let you in. If not, she'll tell you to go or make an appointment. So, and then our safety people too, they've kind of spread out, instead of coming to and putting like bigger groups and meetings. Like, we would usually have a safety meeting where the whole company would get together, and you're talking 600-700 people in a building doing all these classes. We can't do that anymore. So we have to do the trainings different now. We would usually knock everybody out at one week a year, and now that's not the case. So it's more paperwork for us to keep track of who's going to expire, and who can be on the job and what they need. And it's more paperwork, but we're trying to be as safe as possible. I don't know if they're going to resume those safety summits, like we used to call them, or the company's going to continue as we're going, because of, are they willing to have 500 people? What instructors are going to take the risk of being around all these men from all walks of life? I mean, we don't, all their families work. We don't know what jobs their spouses have, or the kids are in school, or what they've been exposed to. So it's just a height of danger. We don't want them to take it home to their family, and we don't want to bring it home to our family either.
Because you work for a construction company, what kind of policies did your work apply for the safety of the employees, covering all ranges from labor, foremen, safety, and project managers?
Yeah, that's been an interesting one. I know that the guys are supposed to wear masks in the field. Um, most of them wore gloves depending on the type of work that they do, but they were even assigning booties, which I thought was interesting for some of the office staff, which I don't think we ever used, but like sanitation wise, if you come in the office and you don't actually work there, you're required to wear a mask, just because we don't know where you've been. And we kind of all social distance. I know that some of the policies that we're supposed to be abiding by are saying this, keeping the 6 feet away and wearing masks if we're in close proximity to people. I know that all the guys in the field, they have their own water bottles instead of them having like each crew member has their own set of like water bottles. They're trying to get away from the jugs, where it's a communal thing. So now they have their own individual water bottles, which is a cost increase to the company too. But it's just keep our company safe. And masks, if they don't have masks, we provide them masks. Either if it's a lot of them use the fishing sleeves that go up, or they don't want them using handkerchiefs. They want them either using a mask or the fishing type sleeve. And I think they gave them all free in the fields. So they encourage, and of course, hand sanitizer. Oh, guys, I think we're given a bottle of hand sanitizer, so they can keep safe. And I think we also increased the porta potties. We try to keep the number of guys less to each porta can, so we can spread them out, have more accessible to them, so they wouldn't be so many in the same areas.
During the COVID in 2020 presented, was there a point where you had to manage extra duties because of the labor's shortage or other factors because of the cost caused by the pandemic?
Definitely. Just with the safety stuff alone. I mean, we're talking 500 guys, uh, just to keep track of all the safety stuff, has been a struggle. It's an extra thing. And the constant turnover with people coming in and out, we're constantly, we have to get them resubmitted for background checks every 6 months, because of the project that we're doing too. But it's a constant high turnover rate where sometimes it's not the same guys. All these guys have already left, and when did they not stop showing up, or the communication from the fields, it's gotten, I think it's more of a strain because of all this. The guys can't come into the office. They're only limiting superintendents. They don't have all the foremen coming to the office, to where if we were having the foreman, we can have those one-on-one conversations with them. Now it's a lot limited. And I don't know if that's going to change or that's going to continue. But we don't have that personalization with our foremans anymore to ask what's going on. We would, and then they're sometimes in cell phone range. They're not in a good area, so we can't even speak to them on the phone. So it has been more work, definitely more paperwork, tracking. It has definitely increased.
Well, what was the most difficult struggle you had to face at your workplace because of the pandemic?
I think working from home. Well, we were all sick. Working from home, I prefer working at the office because I have my large monitors, and I have more viewing space. I have more things open up at the same time. That was a struggle for me, lugging paperwork back and forward, not wanting to lose anything. Meetings now is by phone, instead of actually meeting in person. All that has cut off. When before, we would meet, we'd actually have a meeting. Now we cannot. Now it's conference calls or emails, or yeah, different.
This last section asks you to share any stories or you have about this pandemic and the response by local, state, and national elected officials. Feel free to respond or pass on any of the questions. Do you feel satisfied with the local response to COVID-19 in Brownsville, Rancho Viejo, and Cameron County over these last 2 years?
I think every city can do more. I would say I'm dissatisfied with some of the things that they've done. I think they could do more for the rural areas, especially in Brownsville and Rancho Viejo. There's too many people that don't know what's going on, you know. I think they could have done better.
Are you satisfied with the state's response to COVID-19 led by the governor over these last couple of years?
No. Mr. Abbott was the reason why we could not close our beaches in Corpus when I was there. His decision impacted all those people. I think if he would have allowed us to close the beach back when it first started in 2019, there would have been less deaths in Corpus because it was ridiculous. Ridiculous. I had people outside in tents because there was no room in these hospitals. They were going to open a condemned hospital just for COVID patients because there wasn't enough. People were dying left and right. They had reefers of dead bodies at the hospitals. No, I think his decisions were very bad. And he was following our last president, Trump's, believing that it wasn't real. I think he made very wrong decisions, and it impacted not only our nurses and doctors, which some of those cases probably should have not died in stress. Just the whole fact. I mean, dead bodies and reefers. You're telling me that was just disgusting. It was horrible. If he would have allowed us to close the beaches and close uh, off sooner and maybe stayed a little bit longer working from home, I think it would have impacted our society different.
How do you feel about the national response to COVID-19 led by President Trump in the year 2020 and then President Biden from 2021 to present?
Oof, what a tough one. I think Trump didn't think it was serious. And then he got COVID and then he was like back at work fainting the next 2 days. I think President Biden tried a little bit better, but it was still lacking. I think they should have maybe gotten more scientists. I mean, I know it was so new and everything, they didn't have any history or anything like that, and it was new, but I think they should have been a little bit more cautious with people's lives. I think a lot of lives were lost um, because they didn't know what to do. It was first time ever. This is definitely going to be in the history books for my grandson's children. They're going to be reading about this, and further on, because it's made a major impact, I think, on our society and everything. But I think they could have handled it better instead of just Fauci or whoever. These, I think they could have had more scientists, maybe in different fields besides infectious diseases, to learn about, is it airborne? Is it not airborne? Like just other things. I think they could have done better.
If you had the power of a political office to respond to COVID-19, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I would definitely uh, talk to the people out doing the jobs. You know what I mean? Like the doctors and the nurses, and listen to their concerns more of what they think should happen, because those are the people that were in direct contact with people sick, not necessarily me at home or working. It was those people that were with those sick people, watching them die without their loved ones. That was horrible. So horrible. I think they should have taken um, better care of those people and responded faster. I think that's what I would do different. I would listen to the administrators or the head of the hospitals more on what they actually needed.
This is a special year in our national democracy because it's a midterm election voting year. Do you plan to vote? And if so, is the issue of COVID-19 going to factor into your votes?
I will vote. And yes, I'm going to take their overall what they've done instead of pinpointing like one specific thing. But I think it's overall because people make mistakes. We're human, it's how they recover from those mistakes and how they've learned from them and applied to help out, you know, our locals or our people, I should say. Um, so yeah, and I hope everybody does vote and not just judge them on one particular thing because everybody makes mistakes. We're human.
Will you consider the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic in your vote for a presidential candidate?
I will. I'll take it. I'll definitely listen to what they're promising and what they can actually do realistically. I mean, because we can promise, sunny skies and beautiful weather all day, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen. So I think that listening to what they actually are saying that they're going to do and how they're going to help out, and judging them as a whole, try not to pick out their mistakes solely, what I believe is their mistakes, I should say, because everybody has their own opinion. But I'm gonna try not to let just COVID-19 rule my factor. No.
Is there any source of help or aid you could have used at the peak of COVID-19 pandemic to make your life more manageable, less stressful, or is there any assistance you wish you had at this point in the pandemic?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess better, faster internet. I think, since a lot of people were working from home, there was a lot of issues with technology, Um, I know that the spectrum and everybody is doing their best and, more towers and stuff like that. But I think it was more people working from home was bogging down everything. And it was like a lag. This had never happened before, of course. I think that's probably the only thing. Everything else, I think I do the same.
What impact or purpose do you hope your story may have on listeners of the Voices of a Pandemic digital archives?
You know, that's a good question too. I think that it doesn't cost anything to be kind. It doesn't cost you a thing to smile. You have no idea what that other person has gone through or what they're going through or what struggles. Just because you have a smile on your face, or you're opposite, you have completely monotone, no facial reactions at all, you have no idea what those people are going through. So I think the only impact I would like to have is to be nicer, to be kind. That's it. It doesn't cost you anything to smile. You don't even say hello, just smile.
Is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experience with COVID-19 that I have not asked about?
um I don't think so. Only thing I would like to say is that I hope this pandemic doesn't hinder our youth, our future guys your age, uh, to talk to people, you know, to be personable again, pull you out of not of being an introvert. I mean, it's good to be an introvert. I think I'm half introvert and extrovert, but I just hope that this it doesn't mess up our youth any more than it has. I know my daughter, speaking from my daughter's experience, I've seen her really struggle. And I just hope that there's more stuff for people that suffer from anxiety and depression to help them come back out into public and society.
Thank you, Priscilla Gallegos, for sharing your stories with me, the Voices of a Pandemic Oral History Project.